Mr. Ortiz? For the record, all members are present with the exception of Mr. Charette and Mr. Reynoso. Please proceed, Ms. Ortiz.
Good evening, Council. Welcome back. Happy New Year. So I want to once again address my opposition to paying for the mayor's legal fees in regards to his actions in sexual harassing 3 female employees and bullying 5 employees altogether, additionally to his chief of staff and another intern. It is not our responsibility, as the Madam City Attorney has pointed out to you previously, to defend or pay for the mayor's legal fees for anything that happens outside of the scope of his employment. No one elected him to be a scumbag, a sexual harasser, a miscreant, and abuser of our young college-educated people who are coming here looking for an opportunity. That is not in the purview of being mayor. So please, when he goes in and he stomps his feet and he slams that table and tells you he will sue, let him, because the discovery would be so delicious. Let him tell the community and the courts that he is being harassed, that he's in a hostile work environment, and then go interview everybody he works with. Because it is not our responsibility that he is a bad guy. And then I want to know, if you guys do, or even some of you are considering it, how do you go back and tell your constituents that you can't pay to turn on their street lights, you can't pay to pave their roads, you can't pay for park and recreation activities, you can't pay to put grass around the city, but somehow we always find money for lawsuits, especially for the mayor? The city attorney's office received $3 million additional in the budget last year because of all of the additional lawsuits. $3 million. What could we have done with that money? I don't know, clean up the Oxbow that the mayor was taking kickbacks from and then vetoed? We could have put more money into restorations of our parks. We could have paved streets. We could have improved senior centers, community centers. We could have actually invested into the people who live here instead of the person who continually takes advantage of this community and it's like it's a piggy bank. You have a fiduciary responsibility. And I feel that you guys have changed. I feel like you are putting a good step forward. So continue to do that. Say no to using our taxpayer dollars for this absolute waste of a mayor. Thank you.
Paula Plunk, Ms. Plunk, welcome.
Sorry. Council, narcissism is the wanton desire for self-gratification, using the skills of bullying, lying, purposely with gleeful malice. Forget that. Senator John Valdivia, once again playing the victim card and debilitating this community with his incessant dialogue of, I'm just misunderstood. Council, we the people completely understand the wants of the censured mayor over his oath to protect and serve. He only wanted to protect himself with the help of his enablers, CM Ward 1, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa, and the city manager, Mr. Field, to service himself by engaging with the women in San Bernardino government as his private buffet line to continue his sexuatory predatory behavior. To purposely change the trajectory of these women's lives, thinking that this might have been their dream job, only to turn into the biggest nightmare because John Valdivia's need to be a sexual predator narcissist should never be rewarded. The censured mayor is asking 2 women on the council, who are conduits to the women in their wards, to give money to his defense fund. Please. The allegations against the censured mayor are directly related to John Valdivia flipping his middle finger at the code of conduct under the city charter and undermines the mayor's chair by having his legacy as a verified sexual predator harasser, a bully to women, and a really bad example of a good Christian man. Most importantly, the costly embarrassment and the burden he places on the San Bernardino judicial system because of his narcissistic tendencies. If the censured mayor is so skillful in raising funds, then he should ask his predatory gentrifying friends and supporters to open their wallets. As a sexual assault survivor warrior, Mr. Valdivia needs to understand that these desperate attempts to salvage his image is why women do not report sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, and or rape. Council, this is John Valdivia's forever legacy. Do not define yourselves with him on a yes vote. Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa, less than 1,000 votes put you in that chair. A yes vote would trigger a change for your chair tonight. Mr. Charette, you're running for mayor for personal vendetta reasons against Mr. Valdivia. Well, here's your chance. Hashtag Karen. Excuse me, my time. Councilman Moore 1, for all the selfish enabling things you constantly do, change your script tonight. Vote no. Your re-election is upon you. And I'm sorry, Mr. Charette. Good, I'm glad.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Plunk. Let the record reflect 5:34, Mr. Charette arrived, and 5:36, Councilman Reynoso. Are there any final comments from staff before we go to closed session? Seeing none, we'll go into closed session. Thank you. In 2022, Happy New Year to the city, our staff, and residents and businesses of the city of San Bernardino. This is our joint regular meeting of the Mayor City Council. I call now to order this this regular meeting. And tonight, we are inviting Pastor Chris Reinhard. Sir, thank you very much. If you'll lead us in tonight's invocation. And then followed by that, Pastor, would you lead us, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance? You all rise.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for the chance to gather together in freedom, in a place where we can voice our thoughts and our opinions. God, I thank you for those that have fought for this, who have worked hard for this. And God, as this conversation and discussion continues tonight, God, I pray we'd be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. That, God, we would think of others before we think of ourselves. So we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. So the pledge together. Put your hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Pastor Chris Reinhard of the Sandals Church. A great, vibrant church on the north end of our city, and we thank you, Pastor Reinhard, for being here tonight, and thank you for your leadership as you seek to restore families in our city, and we thank you for your ministry. At this time, I will recognize the city clerk. Please to call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra, not present. Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Here.
Councilmember Charette.
Here.
Councilmember Reynoso.
Here.
Councilmember Calvin.
Present.
Councilmember Alexander.
Here.
And Mayor Valdivia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. City Attorney, for our closed session report, please.
Mayor, council members, and members of the public, we have one reportable action item this evening. The City Council voted unanimously to authorize the filing of a receivership action at 2506 North Sierra Way, and that is all for the reportable action.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will go through our city manager report. Mr. City Manager Rob Field. Sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Changing things up a little bit this week. I'm going to do things with some visuals. So we have a brief PowerPoint to go through. Nothing like a picture to help tell the story. So first up, let's go to the first slide. Liddy Gutfeld. You would recognize her except she's wearing a mask, but she's our new director of the Parks and Recreation Department for the city. I want to welcome her. We have a number of other people who have joined us, including Barron Brown, who's actually with us tonight. He is our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. Barron? So we have a couple, so we're staffing up, folks. Also, Tanya Williams with the budget in the budget division manager, Cesar Bernal, senior budget management analyst, and Daniela Aquino, Parks Literacy Program Coordinator. So again, our commitment to you has been that we will staff up, and so wanted to take this quick opportunity to introduce and just announce a few of the folks who have joined us recently. And of course, Renee Anderson's with us tonight. She is the head of the Human Resources Department for the city. So Renee, thank you for joining us as well. Let's go to the next slide. We have another new addition to our staff who has a new addition to his family. On his very first day, he goes home at 11:30 that night and helps deliver his son. He came back to work the next day. Now that is absolute dedication. So we kind of got a 2-for-1 there almost. We have a new city employee and a soon-to-be city employee at some point.
He delivered his son?
Apparently, yes. Is that correct? Yes, he helped deliver his son. So how is that for a welcome to the city? So we want to congratulate Michael and his family, Michael Gibson and his family, for the new addition to their family and to the city family. Next slide, please. Congratulations to Councilwoman Calvin for being appointed to serve on the League of Cities Community Services Policy Committee. The importance of this, and I don't know, I'm even, if you want to say a couple words, Councilwoman, is that, again, we've talked about this recently, is how important it is for the city to reengage on a state level as a reminder that San Bernardino is an important city, second largest city in the Inland Empire, and we are reasserting ourselves. We've been off the stage for a little while, but we're not now. We're back, and this is a great example of that. We also have had a couple of staff members who've been appointed to committees. Barbara Whitehorn and Eddie Eveland are both also on committees, so the city is, as I said, we're reasserting ourselves.
And your mayor is also on committee.
And the mayor is on the
Transportation, Communications, and Public Works.
Right.
So it's a team effort.
Total team effort.
Yep.
TTE, total team effort. Yes. Next slide, please. Parks and Recreation has printed and distributed their brochure. First one we've done in several years. So it is out, and in the Spanish language version is going to be out in 2 weeks. Next slide, please. The police department is sending some additional folks through the academy. Here's the most recent class. So we are continuing to at least maintain staffing levels in the police department. Next slide, please. Also, the police department did crafting with a cop on December 18th, continuing to do community outreach. And the mounted unit, district resource officers have been conducting an increased level of patrols around retail areas. No surprise, there have been some issues with the smash and grab type stuff, so part of the effort to ensure that we respond to that and enhance public safety. Next slide, please. We have had some storms, and the city had to fill 4,238 potholes around town, 115 tons of cold patch asphalt to ensure the safety of the traveling public. And we continue to receive calls. There have been some additional rain events, and we are continuing to be able to respond to those. While at the same time working on the major rehabilitation projects, we have a number of additional projects coming your way very soon. I was speaking with Alex Kishta yesterday, and it sounds like we're going to be paving something like 60 stretches of street in this year, this calendar year alone. So a lot of stuff going on around the city. We've also got some new equipment. The piece of equipment on the right is a stump grinder. As we take out trees, it's one thing to take out a tree, it's another thing entirely to leave the stump in the ground or not. And now we have the capacity with staff-operated equipment to remove stumps. The rear loader on the left is going to assist us as we respond to illegal dumping calls. It's a smaller vehicle, so it can get into places where a larger vehicle could not. And these are both pieces of equipment that were requested by Public Works and have arrived. These are pictures of the actual items. These are not catalog pictures. Next slide, please. The Finance Department, once again, recognized by the Government Finance Officers Association for our budget. Obviously did a great job of preparing that and look forward to the next one. The Water Department has been recognized for their work on COVID-19, working to ensure that the public health folks who need access and can do things like wastewater-based epidemiology, easy for me to say, to quantify trends in COVID-19. So we're participating actively in the ongoing fight against the epidemic. Next slide, please. Free COVID tests are being made available now. We have received some tests from the county, and we will be distributing them through various outlets around the city, including libraries and community centers. And we are in the process of analyzing the final rule that was distributed by the Treasury Department, and we'll soon be bringing you some additional spending recommendations for our American Rescue Plan Act funds that will be coming very soon. California Water and Wastewater Arrearages Payment Program. The Water Department has received some money from the state, a little over $1 million, to assist qualifying customers to pay off their arrearages in their water and wastewater charges. And they have also received $2 million to upgrade their water meters. These are both more examples of the proactive nature of our water department. They're doing great work in pursuing funds whenever and wherever available. Next slide. Finally, the library, homework assistance and for students K-8, we've expanded hours. There will likely be a bit of a suspension in these programs as we continue to fight COVID. We'll keep you updated on that, but in the meantime, we have been offering enhanced levels of assistance to students through our homework assistance program. And next slide. And finally, last but not least, we are offering discounted pet adoptions through the Animal Services Department. Chris Watson and her group are doing a great job of working to empty out the animal shelter. We've had a little bit of an uptick in our census there, so we're working hard to bring that back down. And I think that is the end of my presentation. It is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. What an awesome report, and thank you for the pictures. I want to compliment and highlight the new addition to our Public Works team, the equipment. I'm a mayor that loves all departments. I love every department in this city, and I love every employee just for their hard work and determination. But tonight, I want to recognize the good work of our Public Works team and our rear loader and the tree stump grinder. Let's get to work on that because our city needs a cleanup, and I think this city council does understand that we're an agency that provides services and delivers services, and so this is great. Over the weekend, we'll get into council announcements in a moment, but I want to provide mine first in a community update. I was honored to be a part of the Panda Express grand opening on 5th Street and 8th Street, and it was an awesome opportunity to really greet the executive management team from Panda Express. The corporate office was there, and it was a great opportunity. We cut the ribbon, and we want to encourage all of our San Bernardino residents, certainly the 25 or so thousand employees that come down. We have a Panda Express in downtown San Bernardino. We're really excited. It's a one-of-a-kind architecture layout, and if you go in there, it's beautiful. It really is, and so we're excited to host and have Panda Express at our downtown corridor, and we thank Panda Express for investing in our community. I did spend some time with the corporate executives, and we're already planning another potential site in the city as I leverage conversations with them to increase presence on the southeasterly portion of the city, inclusive of our inland, our San Bernardino International Airport. So stay tuned for more details to follow on a new Panda Express. We're excited about that opportunity. I was saddened to hear on the departure of our lost longtime friend, Dr. Margaret Hill, and I want to send my condolences to the family of the Hill family. And in just a few moments, we'll recognize her and her homegoing. What a tremendous, tremendous lady that she was in our community, and I want to send my deep condolences to the family. On behalf of the city of San Bernardino, we do send our regards to the family. And finally, Happy New Year to our residents and our businesses. What a great, great opportunity we have in 2022. This is our first city council meeting back from a long extended holiday, and I want to wish all of my council members a happy and prosperous new year, healthy, as well as to our city employees, our city team, and of course our city executives. With that, we will begin with our city council updates, and we'll begin with Councilman of the 1st District, Councilman Sanchez. Sir?
No comments tonight.
Good. Councilmember Barr?
No comments.
Mayor Pro Tem? Fred Charette?
Wow, I thought that was usually my job
Yeah,
with no
sure,
comments.
okay.
But, and I don't have any real serious announcements going on in the Fourth Ward. But I do want to personally, before we recognize Dr. Margaret Hill on item number 2, I want to give my personal condolences to the family. This woman, I think I was her favorite. Actually, she was much like my mother, and the newspaper and everyone thought of her as a mother. And my mother did make me believe I was the favorite, but she made my brothers and sister believe they were the favorite too. And that's what Margaret did. She was just an outstanding friend. I wouldn't have known her if I hadn't been in this position. I got to know her very well. She was one of my constituents. I think she was a supporter of mine. And we were friends, and she is greatly missed by this community. So I wanted to just pass along my personal condolences to the family and my recognition of what a wonderful woman this was to our community. And I will join the mayor in wishing everyone a happy new year. I think 2022, I think we've got some real opportunity going forward, and I'm looking forward to a new year, and maybe not pandemic completely free, but we can get back to normal somewhat. But Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Reynosa, the 5th District, sir.
Thank you. I want to start off by thanking Dr. Margaret Hill, just for the legacy that she left. Running as a young man, in this city was not easy, but I had support and I had counsel from people like Dr. Margaret Hill. I got to sit on the table of the Teachers of Color campaign with the district, and I can't really explain what it was like to have someone like that next to you, who has understood and been through everything under the sun, and still has resounding support for all obvious reasons. So I just want to thank her for that and leaving an impact on me that I'll never forget, and I'll extend it to plenty of other young people in this city, and people of all ages and of all creeds and race and everything, because Dr. Hill didn't see that. Dr. Hill saw progress and knew how to get it done. And I'm grateful for that. I don't have any other announcements. I'm excited, Mr. Keisha, to see that loader, because Little Mountain is near and dear to my heart. I walked over it when we didn't have a ride home from Cajon High. We used to walk over it back to the south side or to the foot of Little Mountain. And I've seen a lot of just couches, and I roll up going up, heading towards Shannon Hills, and I see just the trail of everything that people just go up there and dump. And I wish that it wasn't that easy. I understand it's a fire access road to get up there, but we're working on it. And I just wanted to share with the community. I know there's not a lot of people here. Hopefully people are tuning in. And it's not an excuse, but I know that I haven't been as attentive as I should be. Obviously work is one thing as a council member, but I've been my father's cancer has spread to his brain. And it's not something that's easy to deal with. And the fact that I'm even able to talk about it shows me as a reflection that I'm kind of still checked out, to be honest with you. And so I'm dealing with that, and so I ask for a little patience as I get my footing back, and I try to figure things out and keep my family together, because I'm the boy in my family, and I know that gender roles don't really matter that much, but in my family, I'm still the person who keeps us all together for some reason, believe it or not. And so I just want to wish everyone a Happy New Year, and I hope that you just spend more time with your loved ones, and everything that they do for you, just remember every day what they mean to you, what they've offered you, and what you can offer back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Calvin of the 6th District.
Happy New Year, everybody. It is so good to be back here at City Hall and to be able to see all your faces and make sure that you guys know that we are all working together, that we all do understand all the needs that the city has. And I am just really, really excited to be able to say thank you to all of our staff, all of our new staff members who now have found a home with us, and our city manager and his team who are really pushing us forward. This new equipment that you see us purchasing, I guess we are hiring them. This new equipment that we're purchasing and many of the things that we have coming forward, like being able to clean up our streets and the facades and helping our small businesses and cleaning up storefronts, I'm really, really excited about what 2022 is going to bring us. This took 45 years plus for us to get in this position. It's going to take us some time to get out, but as long as we continue to see forward movement and progress, I'm excited. I get to drive my neighborhood and others in the community and see Public Works trucks working, seeing code enforcement out, seeing other folks out there in the community doing the work that we need, PD, fire, everybody just really working, having a positive attitude and knowing that we are going to see the other side of this. And that's exciting, really, really exciting. I also want to say my condolences to all the family, all the friends of Mother Dr. Hill, and that's what I called her, was Mother. Because 30 years ago, when my mother transitioned, Dr. Hill was there for my sister, who was 16, and she was the principal there at the school that we enrolled her in. So you can imagine the loss. My being 28, oh, I just told my age, oh my goodness. My being 28, my sister being 16, and what we had to look forward to, my now becoming a mother of a 16-year-old per se. And Dr. Hill would make a phone call to me to let me know, oh, sister wasn't in class today. Oh, sister was not doing what she was supposed to do today. And so I will forever be grateful of her being our mother. And that's what community really is, right? And so Dr. Hill represented everything about community. I am excited about the appointment with the California League of Cities, and I thank my colleagues who went to Sacramento with us, and we stood for what we needed to stand for, and that was to protect our online sales tax. And what it showed us there was that we needed to be more of a part. It's not about being reactionary, right? It's about being proactive. And so here's what we're doing, is letting folks know throughout the state of California that while San Bernardino may have been a little bit quiet, that we're here and we are concerned about our city. We want to collaborate with our surrounding cities, but we are the county seat of this region, and so we want everybody to understand that as well. We're hiring in the city of San Bernardino. Code enforcement is looking for officers 1 and 2. Public Works is looking for staff as well. This is very, very, very important. Please go to the city's website. All of our open positions are there in order for us to take care of these things that, so we can not have PD doing code enforcement work, because that's not their job. We need to hire code enforcement officers. If you know anybody, please go to the website, look at the qualifications, and apply. Let's see, I want to also thank IEC AAC, that stands for Inland Empire Concerned African American Churches. They put on a virtual Martin Luther King event. It was the 42nd annual event. And even though we had to have it through being virtual, still it was a magnificent memorial to celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. So I'm very excited about being able to recognize diversity here in our city. I want to say welcome to Ms. Renee, Mr. Barron, Ms. Liddy, all of you guys. We're very excited about you coming on board and joining us here for the city of San Bernardino. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Councilmember Alexander, the 7th District, sir.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to everyone. May the best of your 2021 be the worst of your 2022. Let that sink in. First of all, on January 22nd, we'll have Dr. Margaret Hill's public memorial, and that'll be at San Manuel. It will start at 11 a.m. I hope to see you all there. On that same day, I was supposed to have a Councilman Chat and Chew. Obviously, I am going to reschedule that Chat and Chew, my 7th Ward Councilman Chat and Chew, to February 12th. It will be via Zoom because Omicron has taken a hold of us. It'll be February 12th at 10 o'clock via Zoom. Information is forthcoming. I want to personally thank Director Watson, for your help on the raccoon manifestation that happened in our city. I didn't know how to handle raccoons. People call council members for all sorts of stuff. I didn't know how to handle raccoons. So I had to lean on the good doctor there, and she came up with some solutions. I appreciate you calling, even when you were sick, so I appreciate you. Welcome to all the new personnel. I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for coming aboard City of San Bernardino. Welcome. Train overpass. Thank you, Mr. Kishta. I look at that train overpass. I said it when it was being tagged, and I said it You guys got on it. I appreciate you getting on it because every time it gets tagged, you guys are right back on it, so it looks good when we coming and going. So thank you for your graffiti team for staying on that, okay? They're going to get tired of tagging it because you guys are going to get on it within 48 hours, so I appreciate that. Councilwoman Calvin, congratulations on your appointment. It's well done, and it's well deserved. And Chad and Chu, that's it. And thank you very much, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Councilman. All right, let's move into the presentations portions of tonight's calendar. This is the Big Brothers, Big Sisters of the Inland Empire, and Mr. City Manager.
Are they here? We will defer this and reschedule.
Okay, very good. At this time, I will ask Councilman Alexander. We will be making the presentation of Dr. Margaret Hill Day, and the chair will recognize Councilman Alexander. Sir, you're recognized.
Come on, yeah, come on out there. There you all. There you all. If you can all introduce yourselves, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, my name is Raymond Bynum. I'm Dr. Hill's brother.
Hi, I'm Val Jean Bynum, Dr. Hill's sister-in-law.
Hi, I'm Kamaya Gawadon, Dr. Hill great-granddaughter.
Kamon Gabaldon, Dr. Hill grandson, great-grandson.
Hi, my name is Kiana Gaudon, and I'm Dr. Hill's great-granddaughter.
Thank you guys for coming out today, and I appreciate it. There's no I in team, so I won't say I requested this, but I'll say that the mayor and council requested this because we knew how important your grandmother, great-grandmother, and all that was to the city. She was special to each and every one of us in different ways. And you must know that she was loved. She was loved. And that's more important than any award that we could present or any proclamation that we could give, is that when someone is loved, and this is love showing it right here about a different body showing how much we appreciate and loved her. So without further ado, it says, a proclamation of the mayor and the city council recognizing and honoring Dr. Margaret Hill, community icon, leader, longtime San Bernardino City Unified School District board member, and known by many names in the community as a community mother to all. Passed away on December 19th, 2021. She was 81 years old. That's a blessing. Whereas Dr. Margaret Hill was an amazing woman who was for the past 50 years worked tirelessly to further education and opportunity for children of San Bernardino and the region. Whereas Dr. Hill served in the region for over 50 years. Yet while her longevity is impressive, it is her impact that will be remembered. And whereas the San Bernardino Unified School District board member since 2011, Dr. Hill started her local education career in 1971 as a teacher before serving as the vice principal at San Bernardino High School. She retired from San Bernardino City Unified School District in 2003 after 16 years as the principal of San Andreas High School. And whereas Dr. Hill joined the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools Office in 2006, where she served as Assistant Superintendent of Administration Services until 2012. For the past 10 years, Dr. Hill was a member of the San Bernardino Unified School Board, serving as president from 2015 to 2017. And whereas Dr. Hill was known for her Ma, she led a group of community members and business leaders to join her at the entrance of one San Bernardino school a month to greet students with a cheerful smile, encouragement, music, elbow knocks, fist pumps, upbeat wishes for a happy day. And whereas our condolences to all that knew Dr. Hill and were influenced, inspired, and impacted by her significant contribution to our community. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the City of San Bernardino, Mayor and City Council do hereby proclaim January 19, 2022 as Dr. Margaret Hill Day.
I also want to recognize our, Dr. Rogers, would you join me, please? On behalf of the City of San Bernardino, we send our deep appreciation to your office and the board. You're the school board president, and you had a very, very good relationship and working relationship with Dr. Hill. And if you would please address our community in response to our proclamation.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and I will let you all know my term did end and we have a new president. However, I do want to acknowledge my colleague, Myra Ceballos, is also here from the school board, and she's sitting. Myra, if you can join me, please.
Oh, Myra.
Please,
Yes,
and so as you all know, this is a very emotional time for all of us. And we appreciate, the community just coming together. And we wanted to be here tonight standing and speaking on behalf of the family, because we know that San Bernardino, this is really what we are, is a family. And it's a huge loss. But I did personally, I know I was raised to say thank you, as well as Dr. Hill reminded us when good deeds are done to come and say thank you. And we want to thank you all for doing this. On Margaret Hill Day, imagine, we'll never, ever, ever forget the things that she done for us. And it took you all coming together. And so we appreciate you so much. And again, the family realizes that there was so much impact that she made. We couldn't all have done it, but she did it. And we want to forever remember that. So we thank you all for what you have done tonight. On behalf of the school board, we appreciate the support that you have given to us over and tirelessly over and over again. And we want one legacy that she did leave. She was very adamant about the Education Bridge Committee, and we're looking forward to making sure that that happens so that we are connected together and stay connected in this work. So on behalf of the family, we appreciate you all. We thank you. The school board, stand with us, continue. It's going to be tough for a while, but we know that we are going to get through this together. And we love the family, and it has been so many memorial services that you just don't know, but we appreciate it because she done a lot. She done a lot. So thank you to the board. Thank you. I also want to say to the city manager, he's working with us over at the 66ers. We couldn't figure out how do you honor such a queen, right? And so to come out with us and help us get it together over at the 66ers, we appreciate what you have extended to us and offered to support the family in the work that needed to happen over there. So thank you to the entire council and to the mayor. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the honor.
Proclamation, right over here, man. Come on this side. Come on this side. All right, we all huddle in, please. Jeff, we're looking at you. All right. We got it. We missed Dr. Hill already. Smiling under my mask. I'm smiling under my mask. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Nice to meet you too. Great job.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we will move and transition into our public comment portion for tonight's meeting. We will not be accepting any more public comments, so the time has passed, and we will go in order of receipt of these public comments. This time, Treasurer Tees, Paula Plunk, Jessica Alexander, Mr. Weber, I think, Richard Weber, and David Friedman.
Good evening, Council. So I want to talk about Team San Bernardino. And when I talk about Team San Bernardino, I want everybody to know I absolutely exclude the mayor from the team. Because while the rest are doing great investments, we literally had to censure him for stealing our money, staying in private hotel rooms at the taxpayers' expense, and then trying to get us to pay for his legal fees. Oh, and by the way, that big shout out to Panda Express, he hit up corporate for a $4,700 political contribution that he received on April 20th of 2021. And by the way, that project was having issues moving forward until then. So let's make that clear. So Team San Bernardino, Mr. Field, the things I have seen coming forward are amazing. The level of diversity in hiring of all levels of our community is amazing. And now when I look, because y'all know I do, I look over the resumes and I'm looking over the back history of the people that are coming here. This is the type of talent that only comes in when people see hope in a city and they don't see a measure of turning over. And as we bring in these new people, it's also important to remember who's been here and who has watched year after year after year as new director has come and gone and come and gone, and building in succession planning. Because we know that all departments are not loved equally, and nor are they funded equally. The type of investment you're seeing in public works, that's awesome, because public works is the second largest funded department, and it's almost $17 million compared to PD's $92 million. So why our streets don't get paved? Because we don't give them money. Why aren't our libraries open often? Well, because we spend $3 million on lawsuits, and that's twice the budget of the library every year. So when we are done spending money on selfishness and we put it into the department, we get amazing things. And we have to continue that. Because Mr. Keisha, since you came on and you've done things, we've gotten more projects done than we have in quite a few years. And your rocking team you've moved up and you have new managers moving around and you have new people coming in. That pamphlet that came in from Park and Recs, that's awesome. That's beautiful. And yeah, it absolutely needs to be in Spanish because 80% of our community is Hispanic. But now's your opportunity to also go work with the school districts. Because we have to have crossovers. I don't know if you guys know this, but the kids that live in our city, their parents live here too. And they're the residents, and they're not here tonight. So keep up the good work, because this is the stuff we want to see. And you guys are Team San Bernardino. No matter what else is happening in this community, we see the progress, and it's beautiful. So thank you.
Paula Plunk, followed by Jessica Alexander and Richard Weber.
Council, good evening. Coming with an attitude of gratitude in 2022. Sadly, buried deep within your website is the following statement. The city of San Bernardino has adopted the shared values of integrity, honesty, fairness, and respect to human dignity. Ouch. It's terrifying for residents to know that Mr. Field, his director, CM Ward 1, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa, Mrs. Charette, and of course the censured mayor, that their leadership mocks these beautiful statements for their personal agendas. This needs to change. It's called voting in June. Hot mic moment last meeting. Mr. Field, can you please lean in harder to your directors and wrangle them in so that good works for the residents can be done? This hot mic moment reflects a lack of integrity and lacks respect for human dignity. At 4.43.20, Mr. Alexander is called crazy. The director came unprepared and embarrassed himself over lighting. These bully videos and hot mic moments need to stop, Mr. Field, because the residents deserve so much better. Mr. Field, there's work to be done and brought forward through reports Remember reports, Mr. Fields? It's quite unprofessional to continue to ignore the hard work and pleas of C.W. Ibarra for reports. I'm sorry, C.W. Ibarra, please don't stop asking. Residents request for reports. 1, bring forward this police chief position. If IPC Green is not ashamed that his reputation precedes him, then let him speak his truth. Don't be played again like clowns in a clown car with IPC Green driving this time around. ICP Green, you still remain unimpressive, much like your predecessor, Mr. McBride, to majority of the city, and the reasons include 1, the climbing homicide rate. A report that IPC Green, this is called accountability. Please come forward. Help the finance director find the missing money from the animal shelter. Help the homeless. Council, Measure Z. 6, the scary fireworks resolution. We the people are embracing positives of San Bernardino, so this is for Joan Robles. Joan, I know my heart, yours is hate. I know my story, but Joan, yours is homophobic and hateful. Joan, step aside and stop threatening our beautiful angel, Tina Lopez and others, because we will not vote your way. Please seek mental health support. Understand, council and city management, that this beautiful community's compassion will not be mistaken for weakness or indifference, because fortune favors the bold and we are on our way for change. Vote San Bernardino. Let's sanitize this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Alexander, followed by Richard Weber and David Friedman. Ms. Alexander, welcome.
Can you hear me? Hi. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening and Happy New Year to the entire City Council. My name is Pastor Jessica Alexander. I'm the pastor of Grace Chapel in San Bernardino, over on the San Bernardino Airport. This is our 30th year in existence, and we're so pleased that 27 of those years have been right here serving the residents right here in the city of San Bernardino, not only with ministry services, but also with services to those that are most needy in our community, and that is to the homeless. I'm here tonight regarding plan check number B, like boy, 210-1186. I'm here to urge the council for an answer as to why permits are still not being issued by the city planners, although thousands of dollars in fees have been paid by our church and outside plan check is complete. I have tried to address this before coming to this meeting. I have written emails and made phone calls to the city manager's office. I have communicated with now retired Michael Huntley last year. He did tell me that he would get an answer to me in September of 2021, and he did not. I did copy Councilmember Calvin, and I appreciate her efforts to urge the planning department to get an answer to us, but we were not given one. I did address this issue with some members who were on the IVDA at both the September and the October meetings. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for your time and listening to me after both of those meetings. I emailed, and I appreciate that everyone is so very busy and has so many things to take care of. But our objective is to serve the least in this city, and our project would certainly do that. And so I'm asking that the city council members would make those that are responsible for issuing these permits accountable. Find out what the holdup is, ask them to return my phone calls. I've made several trips down to the planning office. I've been told to come back. I've been told to make an appointment. I've been told to call. I've been told to email. I have done that. I have spoken with Travis Martin in the presence of Oliver Mojica, and no one has returned my phone call at all. So I'm just calling on the City Council at this time, both my City Councilman, Mr. Sanchez, and all of the City Council to please do the right thing and have the appropriate parties accountable. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Our next speaker is Richard Weber. Mr. Weber, welcome. Followed by David Freeman.
Hi, I'm Richard Weber. I've been a contractor in this area for 35 years, building houses and commercial buildings, hospitals. And you guys have always been great to me, so thank you. I came here because of the SB 9, SB 10 bill, and trying to get it going, and no one seems to kind of know what's going on, and you guys had a meeting tonight, so we're trying to see how you're going to move forward with that on the condensed housing population problem. And no one seems to know yet how you're going to proceed with expediting the subdivision of lots is probably my biggest concern. And it's not just me. I have probably 30 other friends that are doing this with me, and we have plans that are ready to submit. And we'd like to know how you plan to proceed forward with that. The rest of the stuff isn't as crucial, just how you're going to proceed to expedite subdividing the lots as guidelines. That's really all it is, guys. Thank you for everything, man. You guys always treat me good. Appreciate it, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Our next speaker is David Friedman. Mr. Friedman, welcome, sir.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. So we submitted to Clean California for a grant for a couple of things, but one of them being revitalizing the alley on 4th Street. It's kind of an obscure place, but it's very central to a lot of the buildings that we've been working on fixing up in downtown San Bernardino. It's become derelict over time. I think people kind of forgot it existed, that the city owned it. And so we worked on bringing to the table a grant for $300,000 to renovate it. I don't know if anyone has been to the State Street alley where they have all the restaurants there. They did a great job making it a very cool place to hang out. And so that's what we're working on. I want to thank Damon Alexander for helping submit it and getting the city on board with it. I want to thank Renee for helping. I want to thank Arlington, Boots on the Ground, helping me put it together and getting it over to Nancy, who you guys hired as your grant consultant, which, by the way, Nancy is on top of it, so good job hiring that consulting company. If anyone has any questions or they want to know more about what we're doing in downtown and why this small, insignificant alley is so important, you guys can reach out to me. My number's all over the internet. You can find me, or everyone knows me, honestly. But yeah, it's a great project. Thanks for submitting it, and I look forward to getting more beautification grants with the city. So thank you.
Thank you. David, can you shut the mic off for me, please? Thank you, sir. Ms. City Clerk, do we have any individuals seeking public comment on our internet phones?
We do have some Zoom speakers. If you wish to speak for general public comments, not for the public hearing, please raise your hand. Okay, we'll go with Natalie or Natalie. You may unmute yourself and go ahead. You have 3 minutes. If you're on a phone, you can push *6. Oh, there you go.
Hello, council members. My name is Natalie Bautista. I am a resident of San Bernardino. I'm also an organizer with the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center. I'm here with a few of my colleagues again tonight, just to keep the pressure and attention to the causes and issues addressing our community members and jornaleros of the San Bernardino corner at the Home Depot. We want to keep urging the need to invest in a worker center for these jornaleros, for these day laborers, as well as street vendors in our community who are facing extraordinarily difficult times now, especially with the increase in COVID. These are really issues and needs that should be addressed and should be a priority as really essential workers and essential members of our community. So here again, just to keep our eyes on that priority. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Okay, our next speaker will be Fanelli. You can unmute yourself and go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Valdivia, members of the council, city staff, and community members. My name is Faneli Milan, and I'm a community organizer with the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center. I do outreach at the informal Day Livers site on Highland and Lincoln here in San Bernardino. And I'm here on behalf of the 25 day livers and street vendors who were ticketed on the November 2nd police raids. They're still waiting to hear back from your city attorney to discuss how their tickets can be forgiven. Also, Council Member Alexander expressed interest in meeting with us. We emailed him to request a meeting and are also waiting to hear back from his office. And lastly, we would like to bring back to the table the idea of a worker center in our city. Once again, we're asking for your support and look forward to meeting with you all in the near future. Thank you.
Ms. City Clerk, how many via telephone? 2 more. Very good.
Our next speaker would be Lynn Ware. You unmute yourself.
Yes, good evening. My name is Lynn Ware. As a lifelong resident of San Bernardino, I personally, and as president of the Muscogee Neighborhood Association, want to express support for the San Bernardino Police Department and specifically for the Northern District Community Policing Team led by Lieutenant Castro. We appreciate any and all efforts they make to improve the quality of life in our community, specifically targeting chronic illegalities and code violations by individuals in our midst and for working to provide public safety. As you know, recently there was a PD operation which took place in our neighborhood at West Highland and Lincoln, addressing long-standing issues that have negatively impacted businesses and the neighborhood in this area. Their efforts seem to have made a positive difference, and we appreciate it. Having said that, I want to take this opportunity to clear my name and that of the Muscogee Neighborhood Association pertaining to accusations that were made by the chairman of the Public Safety Commission at the meeting on January 10th. That chairman named me personally and the Muscogee neighborhood, accusing us of, and I quote, screaming to get some help to address the issues at Highland and Lincoln, and then not saying a word to support PD when there was political pushback against the actions that were taken. While I have reported many issues and concerns in my neighborhood over the years, I had nothing to do with reporting this particular set of issues or, quote, screaming for action, unquote, nor was I even aware that the operation had taken place until hearing about it later at the Coffee with a Cop. So the suggestion by Commissioner Elliott that I personally and the Muscogee Neighborhood Association are ungrateful for the work of our police department is completely false. I reject that. The San Bernardino Police Department, district commanders, and their teams have my full support, the support of the Muscogee Neighborhood Association, other neighborhood associations, and the support of the Neighborhood Association Council. We value the strong working relationships we have developed and look forward to collaborating to tackle issues impacting our neighborhoods going forward. Thank you for the opportunity here to clarify.
Our last speaker will be Claudia. You can unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Valdivia, members of the county, city staff, and community members. My name is Claudia Bautista. I'm the Deputy Director for the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center. I hope that 2022 has started better for you than for many people in the community. We are here again to follow up on the issue on the police operation that happened on November 2nd. As we know, and as my colleagues mentioned already, over 24 workers were impacted during this police operation that happened in the morning on November 2nd. Many of them were ticketed. Some had their work vehicles impounded. At least one person was arrested. As we know, since then, we've been to these meetings time and time again, and we've had different conversations with some city leadership about what can be done to solve the problem. Unfortunately, because the workers are they still have those tickets and their cars. Some of them needed their vehicles, so they had to pay, you know, thousands of fines to be able to get those vehicles back, and some had to pay the fines already. So at this point, you know, there's still some of them that are unsure what to do, since we know that this was, you know, an unfair targeting, and you know, if it wasn't for this operation, they wouldn't have to be paying all this money, right? So we just want to know what's going to happen, if there's going to be any further conversations about how to dismiss the tickets that are still there, or how to reimburse some of them for the hundreds and hundreds of dollars that they had to pay for, individually for these tickets and impoundments. Yes, so we're going to continue, you know, putting the pressure and continue to calling, emailing, and doing anything in our power to find an answer for them, since they are looking to us for support in, you know, in figuring out what's going to happen to them. So we'll continue to be here, and hopefully we'll be speaking either over Zoom or in one of these meetings soon. We decided to, you know, participate today over Zoom due to COVID, but hopefully, you know, we'll be able to be there in person if we still need to be there in the next few meetings. Thank you so much, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Moving on to the appointment portion of tonight's meeting.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I do have 2 ADA requests, comments.
Okay.
One is from Hardy Brown. He says, I want to wish all of you a happy new year, since this is the first time I have spoken to you. I see we are in for more trying times as COVID-19 has mutated into another way to attack us humans. I do not envy you as elected officials trying to accommodate the many different views on whether people should be vaccinated or not be vaccinated. With my illness, when I went for my booster, they gave me a full 3rd dose for protection. This is also a political year in the nation, state, and city, and people are already jockeying to get our attention. I want you and the public to know I will not be supporting the current mayor or the former city attorney. They have been an embarrassment and costly public servants to our city. When I reviewed the agenda of tonight's closed session, John Valdivia is still costing us money from his personal behavior. And when it comes to Jim Penman, he has also cost us millions, especially when you add the old charter amendment of Section 186 that guaranteed the police and firefighters pay raises without approval from the council. Both of these individuals are very divisive in the way they conduct themselves with those on the council, staff, and public. I am suggesting that you strongly consider approving item 5 on the agenda to permit the approval of contracts by minutes in addition to by resolution. I did send you my thoughts by email on agenda item 7 for compensation of the mayor's position. Please do not make the pay so low that a person with education or a family will not seek to run for office based on what the charter requires of the position. I was going to object to item 11 to purchase of a $450,000 Chevrolet truck from Penske Chevrolet dealer in Cerritos until I read the backup information and the specialty requirements of the vehicle. Then I read down to agenda item 17, and you are doing business locally with Fairview Ford to purchase vehicles in the police department. I agree with Councilmember Alexander that all employees should have ethics training, especially elected officials and managers, as soon as possible. Let me say welcome and congratulations to the new Human Resource Director for the city. Last but not least, I agree with your proclamation on having Dr. Margaret Hill Day in the city of San Bernardino. I served on the school board, and I can agree with everything you have documented and a lot more. Thank you for your time, and stay safe. Hardy Brown. And I have one more. This is from Tim Duram. As a San Bernardino resident, it's a shame that a mayor has been censured, make more money than the residents who works hard, while all the mayor does is making more lawsuits against the residents and the city. That is why I'm voting Treasurer Ortiz as mayor. I encourage the residents to do the same if you don't want more BS and lawsuits. Anyway, I encourage the council to reduce the mayor's salary. Fred, Teddy, Juan, you agreed to censure the mayor, make yourself look even better, if you reduce his salary from $9,000 to $2,000 or lower, do your job. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to the appointment portion of tonight's calendar. These are items number 3 and 4. Is there a motion for the approval?
Second.
Move for approval by Charette, with second by Sanchez. If members would please cast their votes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Item number 5, this is an ordinance to allow the contract approval by minute action. Presentation by Mr. Field, City Manager.
Yes, good evening. Thank you. The item before you is long-awaited, at least on the staff side, and I think potentially on the City Council side as well, modification of our procedures for bringing items to the council. Presently, essentially everything is brought as a resolution. I was in a meeting with Councilmember Calvin, who said, why are we at, I think, resolution number 312 in December? Well, we're looking to get away from that requirement, at least partially, and now be able to approve items by minute order instead. It has the same effect legally to move items forward, items of city business forward, and have them approved. When necessary, we will bring resolutions, but by developing and bringing resolutions forward, it adds a great deal of time, expense, and effort for the city departments, for the city manager's office, and for the city attorney's office. So this is really a move towards increased efficiency in government here in the city of San Bernardino, and that's the basis of the requested and recommended motion.
Move to approve.
Mr. City Manager, I have a question. You suggest in your presentation tonight that the resolution may come before the council as needed. And is there a criteria, or is that your just subjective opinion that the resolution would be brought forward before the council?
No, it will be based on criteria associated with the individual item, and we'll be collaborating with the city attorney's office in instances where there is a resolution necessary to approve something. But for the most part, we will be able to do things by minute order instead.
Can maybe the city attorney provide some clarification as far as objective, subjective opinions on the submission of a resolution and it coming before the council, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so whenever we'd have like a standard contract, maybe I'm going to make this up, like for janitorial services or something, that would come by minute order. But we might have situations where contracts are required, maybe due to grant funding, to make certain findings in order to approve the contract or show that certain conditions are met. In those circumstances, we will recommend to staff that we include a resolution to make those findings and satisfy an associated law. And that happens sometimes with economic development deals or certain types of grants.
Very good. Second the motion. There's a second by Councilman Charette. Mr. Reynoso, sir.
Can you, I know we understand that, can you dumb that down for the public? Because you're saying by minute order. No one knows what that is. Okay. Explain the process to these people. Like, okay. How is it going to come before the council?
So,
if it does?
That's a really good point. Let's make it absolutely clear. The city council in public, on a public agenda, will still have to approve all contracts and agreements. So this change will not take away the transparency to the public. What that means is that right now, when you have an agenda with a contract, in the staff report, instead of having the contract and a resolution, you will simply have the contract, and when you make a motion, that's the minute order, when you make a motion, you can approve that contract the way it's done in probably about 95% of the cities. So right now, for every contract you have a resolution because of your municipal code. Tonight, what you would be doing is doing away with that requirement to have a resolution every time you have a contract. That better?
So, Ms. City Attorney, would that come before on a consent calendar, or is there a specific section of the calendar or the agenda in which minute orders would be taken?
It won't matter. It depends. We'll still manage the agenda as we do. If there's a significant contract of millions and millions of dollars for certain type of services, I imagine that will be a business item. And if it's the kind of run-of-the-mill budgeted item, Public Works just needs this service provider, that will come on your consent calendar.
Okay, very good. Are there any final questions, comments by council members? Seeing none, members, please cast your votes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Item number 7, six. This is item number 6 under our public hearing portion of tonight's calendar. This is the urgency ordinance regarding a development code amendment, 2109 urban lot splits and 2-unit projects. The recommendation is there before you. I now open this public hearing at approximately 8:26 p.m. At this time, any remote speaker, please identify yourself and should raise their hand to speak. Could I please get a staff report on this item?
Yes, the staff report will be delivered by Oliver Mojica, Planning Manager of CED.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. The item before you is a result of the state legislature and the governor signing Senate Bill number 9, referred to as the urban lot splits and 2-unit projects. Essentially what it does, and this you may have heard about it, coming in the works, essentially what it does is it creates a ministerial procedure. If you have a single-family lot, you can split it into 2 separate lots and have 2 separate homes on each lot. So that's done administratively. It won't go to any bodies, the Development Review Committee or the Planning Commission. You can just come to the counter with your drawing, goes through Public Works, the Engineering Department, and you have your 2 lots. Along with that, so there's a motive for creating the 2 lots, if you will, or the split, is that now with each of those lots you can build 2 units on each lot, and so there's provisions. So the first one would be the urban lot splits. I have a lot. I don't want to do any lot split other than just well, that's just a split. You just want to put 2 separate lots. That's the urban lot split. The 2-unit projects is what you can do is you can just, if you have a residence or a property, you could put 2 houses on there, and it's 2 single-family homes, and you could. The lot sizes themselves, they're minimal, and so if we, as the attachment to the ordinance, I included the standards. So as an example, and these are small lots, so essentially, if you have to have at least 2,400 square foot lot to split it, right? The smallest of the resulting lots are 1,200 square feet. I know it doesn't really, it's hard to imagine that there's any lots out there that are 2,400 square feet, but let's do the math for a little while. There's some lots in some areas that are 10,000 square feet, right? So now you've got 4 lots, right? And so those 4 lots, each of those lots can have 2 units. So now you have a piece of property that was essentially had 1 house. Now you end up with 8 houses on that same property later on. So this is unfortunately this is. We don't have much discretion. This is it's effective already. A gentleman earlier talked about how are we implementing this, and so this is before you now. Effectively, the law became effective on January the 1st. It does give us a little bit of leeway. So the way that the law is written is properties that allow for single-family residences automatically apply. But as you know, a single-family residence is allowed on a multifamily property. So if you're in the apartment zoning, you could always build down. So if you're allowed to have 4 units on a residential property that's multifamily residential, you could always build 1 house there, right? You could build up to the 4 or whatever the density is. What we were able to do, and what the law allows us to do, is to restrict it to only those zones that allow single-family residential. So in our exhibits on packet page 57, where we started with the standards. So in this particular case, this urgency ordinance would only be allowed in the residential estate, residential low, and the residential suburban zones. In those 3 zones in the city, all you could ever build is a single-family residence. We do not allow duplexes or apartment complexes in those 3 zones. The other zones is where we do allow multifamily. So we're narrowing it down a little bit. And and other than that, there aren't really any other ways that we could restrict. There's some requirements. You have to at least have legal access from the street, which is 12.5 feet. The unit sizes, they have to be less than 800 square feet. It's a small little house. But they have to be more than 500 square feet, okay? The height restrictions, and this is, again, it's because of whatever the lot size ends up. If your lot is larger than 2,000 square feet, the building height can only be 16 feet total. If it's smaller than 2,000 square feet, you can go up to 22 feet, and that's because you got a smaller lot. The reality is you got to go 2 stories, and you got these narrow, small little postage stamps kind of thing. And then the only other, those are really the 2 standards for the 2 sections. So it's really the lot split is just to divide the house, and then the 2 lots or the 2 unit projects are for the 2 houses on each lot. Now you can come in and do the 2 lot subdivision, right? Create 2 separate properties, and then each property could end up with, like I mentioned earlier, with two units. And so I'd be glad to answer any questions and kind of help you with the math a little bit, but essentially you could end up with multiple units on a piece of property. The bigger your original lot, I mean, some lots have half acre or whatever. I know up in the fifth ward, there's some big there's some big lots there, and so someone that has a 2 acre lot up there, imagine how many homes they could possibly end up there, and that would be done administratively. The Planning Commission or the City Council would never see that.
Mr. Mojica, thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
So the presentation on the floor before the council tonight it's a dual, both it addresses the urban lot splits and the 2 unit properties. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, and my question particularly and specific to this proposed resolution before the council is on the lot line merger, does that still a county function or is that a city function? And how do they conform to that process? And what about the build out of the actual improved project? So those 2 units that are are they still in conformity to our building code and safety standards?
Yes, they will. And so the Public Works Department, if it's a lot split, it'll go through the Public Works Department. It's a staff level, just kind of administrative process. But your homes still have to go through the plan check process through building and safety.
So it still conforms to our standard building safety?
That is correct.
This only recognizes the split of that lot?
And the number of homes you could put on
there. The number of
there.
homes.
Correct.
And they still have to pull permits to build the homes and submit plan checks?
And there'll be fees, there are permit fees and those, those items.
What if the council decided to say no to this, or the failure of the passage tonight? What happens?
So if, really, as I mentioned earlier, what our particular ordinance specifically creates a limitation on the 3 zones that I mentioned. So we wanted to maintain it in the in the single family zones because that's where the legislation says wherever a single family house is allowed, you can do this. And so if we were not to approve this, someone can come to the counter with their plans and say, well, I own a multifamily lot, wherever that might be, and I want to be able to, I've divided my parcel so that I can end up with this many units. So our specific urgency ordinance would just limit it to those 3 zones.
Okay. On packet page 57, in which you allude that there's the 3 zones that you specify, is that the entirety of the balance of the city's recognized residential zones?
No, it's we have.
Are there more residential zones?
There are more residential zones. We have the residential medium. We have the residential high. And where you get those apartment buildings. We have a total of 5 other residential zones.
In addition to those 3?
In addition to those 3, that's correct.
But those primarily are multifamily?
That is correct.
Okay, very good. Questions from council members? Questions, anybody? Is there a motion for? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Figueroa, sir.
Thank you, Oliver. How is this going to impact, I guess, parking on the streets? One of the complaints that I do get from residents is that, parking is difficult. In fact, some of them don't even have the ability to put their trash bins, their trash cans out because there's just cars taking up all their space. Is there a way that we can address parking issues if this were to get out of hand? Is that something that we're
under the legislation? We cannot require additional parking. So in other words, you can't have we can't require garages.
Okay.
So typically what they would, if possible, they would park in their driveways.
Yeah, it's probably not going to happen. Does this affect FP5, the fire property taxes or anything like that by adding additional more? Because I would imagine that by adding additional residences, the cost for services would probably increase.
It will create a new legal lot. So it'll be assigned its own a new assessor's number, APN number, and it will be on the tax rolls. And so what was formerly a single property would then be 2 APNs, assessor parcel numbers.
Okay.
And so then, your appropriate taxes and those things based on the valuation of the property.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
You're welcome.
Councilman Reynoso, sir.
Mr. Mojica, what's the average height of like a 2-story home? Because I'm concerned about the 16 feet requirement. I know I had this issue, a lot of concern in ADU, and I know we're going to be revisiting that. So what's the average height of like a 2-story home?
A 2-story home is typically about 24, 25 feet. You normally have, 8 feet between floors.
Right.
You've got about a foot or so between the 2 floors, and then depending on the pitch of the roof that you have. So typically they're between 24, 25, 26 feet in height. The ADU matter, as you mentioned, that the 16 feet really can only accommodate a single story, and the reason, if I may, the reason that the commission had recommended the 16 feet was to limit it to a single story, because the accessory dwelling units or detached structures can be closer to the property line than the main dwelling. And so the concern was that if you have a 2-story ADU and it's right next to the property line, now you got people, there was comments about people looking down into the neighbor and stuff. And so that's why their recommendation was for the single story.
And so you're extending that same logic here?
That's correct.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, actually, let me take a step back. We did not. That's what the state legislation says. That they came up with the 22 feet for a 2-story and the 16 feet for the 1-story. So I want to make that clarification. It wasn't what number that we came up. That's what's in the legislation.
And that's exactly, if this is approved, exactly how it would be on file.
That's correct.
Thank you for clarifying.
You are welcome.
Okay, Councilman Charette, sir.
Thank you. I'm not going to support this. This is a lack of government over many, many years, making it very difficult to build homes and build housing for the state of California. And it's going to turn some nice neighborhood, potentially has the benefit or the opportunity to turn let's say a guy's living between 2 really nice homes, and he's got enough room to build for. These people that bought these nice homes in this nice neighborhood with large lots and what have you, now are living next door to essentially duplexes, or not really condominiums, but I guess you could call them almost condominiums or townhomes. And it's just a lack of government doing their job and making building too difficult in the state of California. And I just don't see it. It's a catch-up to try to build up our housing stock, which we're so far behind in. And this is just another way for Sacramento to say, well, we need housing, so we're going to put it on the cities, and we're going to allow everybody to just build and have high density. So I'm just not going to support the item. I may be misunderstanding something, but I'm going to gamble on what I think is not right about this. It is interesting that I think you started your comment by saying we have to do this anyway. And so many times the public is upset with what we're doing here in the city of San Bernardino, and it's because it's coming from Sacramento, and we don't have a choice. Some of the homeless issues, some of the street vendor issues, some of those things, it's been made difficult for us to do our job and make this community a community that we all love, care about, and make it a high quality of life and a top-notch community, because we're having to follow rules that are made in Sacramento and make our job for our citizens very difficult. I've stated for a long, long time that city councils don't get the respect that they deserve. And I tend to say to a constituent, you know, you've got a supervisor, you go on up the ladder, the higher you go, the more money they make as a salary, the more authority they have. And so I say to my constituents, call your congressman to get your tree trimmed or your pothole filled. Call your supervisor to get that done. They're not doing it. We're the ones that get those calls on those quality of life issues right here in San Bernardino and other cities, and we're being dictated by higher up. It should be reversed. We're representing the people at the local level, and I'm not going to support something because Sacramento and politicians and politics in general have not done their job and made it easy for us to build housing in the state of California. So those are my comments, and I did get a question, and you can answer this. This is for someone that texted me the question. What do you do with residents that have to have septic tanks and are not hooked to the sewer?
Again, they would have to still comply with the standards, and so with the septic tank laws, you know, there's a distancing requirement, you know, and so, you know, they still have to go through the plan check process.
So, and I don't know those regulations, but so someone is going to that has a septic tank already and wants to build 2 or maybe 4 more units on there, probably couldn't do it?
They probably likelihood they would not be able to do that.
Because of proximity to each other. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilmember Calvin.
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Mojica.
You're welcome.
I just have a couple of questions. I haven't done a lot of research on this bill. I would like to believe that the bill was created and passed due to the lack of housing or to increase more housing. Possibly? Okay. My colleague addressed the fact that, you know, we have a lot of community members who may be upset with the lack of parking on the streets. I would probably say that the lack of parking on the streets is due to all of those cars or belonging to family members that live inside of that one house, correct? Correct. So basically what we have is due to a lack of housing, we have multiple, and the cost of housing, we have multiple family members residing together, correct? In order to be able to take care of the rent or the mortgage or what have you. So basically, what we're doing is allowing a homeowner to build a home on their property, right? To be able to house probably a family member, correct? Correct. So, and with the fact is that this law has already been passed, and the fact that we do have a housing shortage right here in the city of San Bernardino and all across the state, this to me is an idea that we need to support because are we building housing? It's not that we don't have land in the city of San Bernardino to build housing, but we need to build more housing, and we need to build it faster, correct? So this, I will be supporting our having to do, you know, to come in compliance with this bill. Thank you very much for the presentation.
You're welcome. If I may, part of it, like you said, it was the housing stock, you know, that we need additional housing, and also the affordability component. And so I guess from my standpoint, I'm a little curious to see how much it's going to cost for a 2,400 square foot lot with that 800 square foot house, because I would be able to buy it. You know what I mean? So like I said earlier, you do a 2-lot sub, you know, you got one lot, you divide it in 2, you got a new APN number on there, you have your 800 square foot house on there, you know, it's going to sell for something, right? Along with that, what we're exploring, we're working with the city attorney's office. It doesn't specify what does it do with ADUs. So there's another complexity where, okay, so now you created 2 lots, right? So under the current state law, a residential lot could have an ADU, right? So now does that mean I could put 2 houses, right? Like I said, each lot, Beagle lot could have 2 houses, and you can have an ADU on there as well. You know, so we're getting that clarification. We're working with legal counsel on that, and so at some point when we resolve that, as we're doing our code amendment, our development code amendment, we will resolve that item.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any requests, Ms. City Clerk, from remote speakers?
We do not.
Do not. I'm now closing the hearing at approximately 8:47 p.m. And for deliberation and action of our City Council, do we have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
If I may, we do need to read the title of the ordinance into the record prior
Okay,
to doing a vote.
if you would, please.
This is urgency ordinance number MC 1570 of the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino, California, approving Development Code Amendment 21-09, amending Chapter 19.04 Residential Zones of Title 19 Development Code of the City of San Bernardino Municipal Code, adding Section 19.04.0302W, Residential Zones Specific Standards, Urban Lot Splits, and Section 19.04.0302X, Residential Zones Specific Standards, 2-unit projects, and finding the exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Alexander and a second by Reynoso. Final comments, questions? Members, please cast your votes.
I have a question.
Councilmember?
Question. Mr. Mojica, is it possible that we, instead of doing the 2,400 square foot split, that we make that amount higher on our end? Will we still be in compliance with the state regulations?
No, that is a state requirement. That's our limitation. You can't make it larger. We cannot require it to be larger than 2,400 square feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, members, if you would, please cast your votes.
Motion passes.
Okay, 5 in the affirmative and 2 no, with the bar and charrette recording a no vote on the item. Thank you. This is item number 7, the ordinance amending Chapter 2.82.010 of the San Bernardino Municipal Code, adjusting the salary for the position of the mayor. The recommendation is there before you. The time is approximately 8:49 p.m. At this time, any remote speaker should raise and identify themselves to speak. Could I please get a staff report?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, City Council. This item is a result of direction from the council to staff in October of last year to bring forward options for reducing the salary of the position of the mayor of the city of San Bernardino. The city charter establishes that the mayor will be paid a wage that is equivalent to that for a family, but it does not define an actual amount. Historically, that wage has been set at 50% of a judge's salary. That goes back many years. Actually, the staff report indicates that it was formally approved in 2019, but actually it goes back to at least 2003 based on the research. So that precedent was set a long, long time ago. However, that has been since reevaluated, especially in light of the change in the responsibilities of the position based on the modification of the charter that was approved by voters in 2016 and implemented in 2017. Staff did an analysis based on the status of a number of nearby cities, including specifically concentrating on charter cities, and there are several in the state, over 120, and there are several here in the region. We based our recommendation or a possible recommendation on an analysis of 5 cities, which led, interestingly, to a conclusion that was actually in sync with a suggestion from Councilman Reynoso, $50,000. Actually, the number is $50,040. So, Councilman, you missed it by $40. That is based on an analysis of 7 cities, 5 of which establish the authority, powers, and duties of the directly elected position. Those 5 cities are Adelanto, Needles, San Bernardino, Palm Springs, and Riverside. And again, the possibility is $50,040. That would be the adjustment from the current salary. So with that, we're open to questions, comments, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Ms. City Attorney, my question for you is, the charter has its certain provisions and prerogatives that are described and enumerated within the powers of the City Council. Furthermore, the suggestion that from the city charter that suggests that the position of the mayor be full-time. My question to you, Ms. City Attorney, is what authority does the City Council have in adjusting the salary?
So the authority comes from the specific language in the charter which says that the City Council shall establish the actual salary. It does provide parameters. There's direction here in section 305, which they say you must set at a level commensurate with that for a full-time position. It also talks about how they have to give consideration and recommendations of advisory commissions. But the authority is actually placed in the city's municipal code, and that's where the authority comes from. The charter could have included the language that's in the municipal code, and then the City Council would not have had authority. But the way the charter was developed, it set some goals, criteria, but it gives the council complete discretion by allowing them to adopt the ordinance. So tonight's proposed action is an amendment of the ordinance. It does not have an impact on the charter.
Is that implied authority given to the City Council, or is that explicitly provided for in the charter?
So when it says that the City Council must establish it, they've established the City Council is not given how they do it, but it is set forth in the municipal code. That's how it's historically been done. And so in order to amend that, you would need to adopt an ordinance amending that, since that's the way it's always been established by ordinance. You would, in order to make the amendment, you'd have to adopt a new ordinance.
Okay, Mr. Reynoso, followed by Mr. Charette.
So we're legally able to make a dollar amount recommendation, City Attorney?
Yes, because section 305 says compensation. It's explicit that compensation for the mayor and council members shall be established by ordinance following a public hearing, giving consideration to recommendations. So that's where your authority is, coming directly from the charter. And that ordinance has then been codified in your municipal code.
Well, the average salary is, or of people in this city, is pretty low compared to what the mayor makes. And it's not about the mayor, he's up for election. It's about the president moving forward. The council has way more ability to dictate your day-to-day life. And it's not about our money either. We're not asking for a raise. We're asking for equality and equity. And so I think $50,000, I want to make a recommendation that we minimize or drop down the mayor's salary from what it currently is to $50,000 annually. Because I think for what the mayor does, being a spokesperson for the city, that's it. So that's my recommendation. I'd like to make a motion to that effect. $50,000.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Charette, sir.
Yeah, thank you. It also talks in the charter about us consideration to the recommendations of the advisory commission charged with a periodic review. And if I'm not mistaken, that committee met 2 or 3 times and finally came back and said, well, we don't want this responsibility. We're going to let the city council decide. Is that pretty much, I kind of, okay, well, that's what I kind of came away with.
Let's see clarification. Ms. City Manager.
Wait, let me finish, please.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It was just my understanding was that the Compensation Commission had kicked this issue around and finally decided that it was not something they wanted to deal with. And so that's why it's been kicked upstairs, so to speak, to us. I mean, partly. But we don't have to accept their recommendation anyway. I mean, so we're not bound by their recommendation. We just need them to have the opportunity to review, correct?
Sure. So following council's direction, the Elected Officials Advisory Compensation Commission was reconvened. They have met now approximately 4 times. At its most recent meeting on January 10th, They did take a vote with regard to the compensation for the position of mayor, and unanimously they voted to recommend no changes to the compensation.
Okay, thank you, and I appreciate that. I did read that, and you've just, I read that in the information, and I was disappointed to hear that, frankly. But
Excuse me, Mr.
that just-
Charette. Mr. Charette, point of order. The actual staff report suggests that the council, that the compensation committee voted
Unanimously.
with
To leave it alone.
Well-
I understand that, I read it, and she just told me that.
No,
Thank you very much.
but there was misinformation in the staff report, and it was brought to your attention by the vice chair of the compensation committee in an email written yesterday.
Oh, I didn't see it. And staff saying they didn't see it. I don't know, this is something that you probably put the vice chair up to send the email. This is something that I've, with all due respect to the charter committee, I think we should have dealt with this back in 2016 when we passed the new charter, and we made this a manager-council form of government that reduced significantly the authority and the responsibilities of the mayor. And I've said this before, it is clear that the charter is clear that it should be full-time, but it's silent on what full-time, they do not define full-time, and they do not talk about what a full-time job is. A full-time job in the city of San Bernardino could be $35,000 a year. Now, I'm not saying, I would suggest it go to that, frankly. I'm suggesting, and I've already requested this, and it's going forward, that we even actually look at a charter change and look at the need for a full-time mayor when you have a city council, city manager form of government. And for the people out there, there was a time, and I've worked under both, where the mayor was a strong mayor, did the hiring of police chiefs, did the hiring of city managers, did those kinds of things, were there really kind of running the show as a kind of a CEO. Under the council manager form of government, what the public is looking at here with these 7 council members are policymakers that run this, that give direction, and I'm going to liken it to and use the paradigm of a corporate structure, and that is a board of directors with someone leading that board as a chair or a president of the board, giving direction to the CEO, which is essentially the city manager, to carry out our policies. And so that's why I've recommended this. I recommended it back at the change of the charter. There's some other inequities in the charter about many times, and this is not for me personally. I'm not running for mayor, as was stated earlier. I'm not. But many times mayors come from the city council after service as a city council person and understanding government and understanding what the responsibilities are. And our charter is very unfair in that there are 3 council members, 3 council seats that have to make a choice of whether to run for mayor or run for re-election in their council seat because of the timing of elections. And there are 4 council members up here that can keep their seat, run for mayor, lose the mayor's race, and still be a council member. That's not the case for the 4th ward, the 1st ward, or the 2nd ward. Very inequitable in my view. And that could have been changed by making the mayor's position elected every 2 years. That didn't happen. And we are where we are, and we have what we have. But the charter committee left a lot of the charter to us to work out some of the details and come up with details. There's some vagueness to it and allows us some latitude to make changes that we think are best for the city to govern. Again, a little lesson 101 in what a charter is for the public. It is basically our Constitution and how we operate. And it does have to be changed by a vote of the people. But in this case, we can set the salary. Now, I also want to make it clear that this salary would not take effect until until after the next, this year's election. So it would take effect with either the incumbent mayor if he wins re-election or a new mayor coming on. So I fully support this, and you've got a second to your motion, right? I heard it. So I probably don't need to go on any further, but I think this is important. The only thing that I see in here, and I did talk about it, and I think council members, but I don't know if it can be done tonight or should be done tonight, and that is the salary, the allowance for auto. That is higher than the council members by $225 per month, and I would reduce that as well to the amount that's commensurate with what the council members receive as a car allowance for what we do and for the travel that we make. Any additional expenses can always be turned in and can be reimbursed if they're legitimate. The mayor's position, I'm not sure the exact amount, but I think it's upwards of $1,000 a month in just stipends to regional boards and other boards. I know there's at least 3 that probably account for about $400 or $500 a month. So we're reducing to $50,000 plus stipends, plus benefits, plus a car allowance. And for the responsibility that comes under the new charter for that person, that's a pretty good gig, frankly. It's a pretty good, it's not a bad deal. So obviously I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Councilman Alexander, sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Just a quick question, Madam City Attorney. We just want to make sure that according to the Charter 305, that this will not take place until the next elected mayor, correct?
Correct. In accordance with the charter, it can only take effect under the next term of mayor.
Okay, and Mr. City Manager, the committees, the Charter Review Committee, are they going to report out? And is the Election Compensation Committee, are they going to report out of what they've found so far in their meetings, other than like at the podium to tell us, to share what they've done? Because I've asked that last time for all the committees, because it's by charter that they're supposed to report out once a year, but in this case, these two specifically, so they can address some of the questions that the mayor and council may have if the chairman and or the committee can report out what they've done.
So we are in the process of scheduling reports, from all of the commissions and committees to the council as per the request. Are you asking that this action be deferred until after that presentation is made?
Well, if the compensation committee or the charter committee can be first to brief us.
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Charette, you mentioned something earlier as far as the mayor being elected every 2 years. In fact, during my review of some of these cities' charters, I noticed that, at least it's my understanding, that the city of Needles, their mayor serves on for 2-year terms. So it is done elsewhere. It's just, of course, it would require a charter change for us. Ms. City Attorney, you mentioned something earlier that's clearly stated in the charter for our city, that the compensation for the mayor needs to be equal to or commensurate with that of a full-time position. And here we're comparing the salary data with cities, with the mayor's duties, so that they align a little more accurately. Do we know how many of these mayors are actually full-time, or are they moonlighting? Are they able to, I mean, did we actually look to see if some of these other mayors are actually indeed full-time and are being compensated in their respective cities for full-time work? Because I'm pretty sure the city of Needles, it probably isn't full-time, and I mean.
I would maybe allow our staff to answer that, but one thing I would like to say is that the requirement in the charter is to acknowledge that it's a full-time position. The charter does not require you to compare your full-time mayor's pay to the pay of another full-time mayor. It's saying you need to look at your conditions and what you might pay a full-time person. So based on publicly available information, for example, you have a whole listing of various full-time positions in your city that make just over $50,000. And they include, for example, a police record supervisor, an animal control officer, a library network assistant, a community services officer, a senior office assistant. And so the analysis that you're required to do is to look at the work that they provide and perform and compare that to the work that your mayor. So that's the legal requirement. I'll let staff answer with respect to what other full-time mayors make.
In terms of the specific question, is it a full-time position and are others a full-time position? That level of granularity is not within their charter or municipal code. What the data analysis and the starting point is let's identify charter cities. From there, let's isolate it down to only Riverside and San Bernardino County. From there, let's look at directly elected mayors, similar to the structure that we have here at our city. And then furthermore, beyond that, which of those cities establish specific duties for their directly elected mayor? That was the basis for the data analysis, and that was the closest in terms of comparison of having apples to apples. Every city's going to be a little bit different in how they write their charter. There's no two exactly the same charter, exactly the same municipal code structure, but in terms of consistency and apples to apples comparison, that's as close as we could get it.
Okay. I'm comfortable saying that the duties of the mayor of the city of Needles is, with a population of 4,000 or just under 5,000 people, those duties are just going to be significantly different. I mean, we can literally fit their entire population down the street in our 66er stadium. I mean, that's how big that the population is there. But in any case, regarding there is other wording in the charter that states that the mayor shall not engage in other types of business or employment that will interfere with the duties of the mayor's duties. Now, that in itself can be open to all kinds of different interpretation. There are obvious things that would prohibit the mayor from discharging his duties. For example, if he were like a commercial airline pilot or a long-haul truck driver, because he wouldn't be able to be here present, of course, for the meetings, and that would be part of his of the mayor's duties. But if the mayor were to be a physician or a teacher, would that in any way interfere with the duties of the mayor?
Just trying to make sure I understand. You're right, the charter does not provide what interference means, right, specifically. So I don't think that we could make a conclusion based on someone's job title, whether they're a doctor or a truck driver or a records technician. But I would say, and I do this very respectfully, your mayor has engaged in activities which have caused him not to be able to serve his role in his consulting business, as an example, where he's declared a conflict and has not been able to participate. So that provision is an interesting provision, right? Because one could declare that the consulting work that is done is incompatible because it's caused him not to be able to do his job. So I just think that analysis, you're going to have to do it on a case-by-case basis. Okay. So I couldn't tell you that, yes, a doctor can and a long-haul trucker can't, because we
I
have to
only
know
picked
what the
those
schedule
two
is.
simply because it would physically take them out of the
Yeah,
location
so it might be
or
that
something.
that may see that if they can't come to City Hall, for example, and perform the job, that might be one of them.
That's the only reason I
Okay.
chose those two. And then the final thing that I have a bit of an issue, you know what, two things. One of the things that I do have an issue with is that the city of San Bernardino is being used to calculate what the salary of the mayor should be. It doesn't make sense to utilize the salary that we're trying to figure out in order to come up with the salary that we're trying to figure out. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
It does, and that's
How
why.
is it a part of the equation?
Yeah, that's why I think I was offering you what I think what an analysis should be, is rather than looking just at other mayors, why not look at your city and other positions within your city? You have hundreds of positions in your city that are full-time. An employee is required to come to work, I don't know, 8.5 hours a day, report at a desk, carry out job duties, and maybe that's a better way of comparison versus just to other mayors, because the mayor's duties under your charter are so unique. I cannot find another example for you where a city had a strong mayor form of government, transitioned through charter amendments to a city manager form of government, and left a full-time mayor earning the amount that he's earning. I couldn't duplicate that for you anywhere. So I do think that staff has given you the best analysis they can. The alternative is to look at other full-time positions, I think, and say, based on what the mayor is required to do, which of these other jobs in our city is it most like, and how much is that individual being paid? That may be a better comparison.
But it's odd to me that we're using the salary of the city in the equation to come up with the salary of the same city.
That's something you'll have to ask staff.
Okay.
That's why I'm telling you, I'm not sure that that's the one way or the right way. I think there's different ways you could do it.
Okay. I would like some clarification on that one, please.
Certainly. So the data distribution, what we're reporting out is these are the mayors. Again, if we go back to the methodology, the core of it was charter cities in the state of California. Beyond that, council manager form of government directly elected. And so that's what the data is showing you. We can include it, we can exclude it. It's not uncommon to include your own compensation. It's the data that we prepared for you to review, to have your discussion and a basis to springboard and have this robust discussion.
Okay. And then my final point is I'll support this. In fact, I'll only support this if we are also to whatever equation is being used to come up with, whatever formula is being used to come up for the mayor's salary, that the salary of council members will also be used, be determined based on exactly how the mayor's salary is being determined, that the council members' salaries are also determined. So that's the only way that I'll actually support it, and that'll be all.
Does that include full-time status, Mr. Figueroa?
No, I'm just saying that whatever council members, no, it just will remain part-time, but whatever council members are being compensated in these respective cities or whatever cities that we're going to come up with, that same, I'm not saying that council members should be paid what the mayor is being paid, that the council members should be paid based on what council members in these same respective cities are being compensated.
Councilmember Figueroa, if I may, just a different way to look at the data. I did look at the data and analyze, well, what if I took out outliers? Our mayor compensation in Needles, the dollar amount was approximately the same. And so that's why the data was presented in that way.
My position still stands as far as council members, that council members should, the salary for council members should also be used in the same equation. That whatever equation is, whatever formula is being used to come up with the mayor's salary, that same formula or that council member salary should also be included in this as well.
I support that.
Salary.
Okay, Councilmember Ibarra, go ahead, followed by Councilman Surratt.
Thank you. I'm hoping that this is just one of the many discussions we'll be having on this, because I have some ideas as well. I know we touched on the regional boards. Recently, our mayor that chairs our board, the IBDA, the SB Airport, he's getting paid a stipend for every meeting that he attends. Could that maybe be something that we can apply here in our city for every council meeting? When I was the mayor pro temp, our mayor left the council meeting several times, leaving me to run the meeting. Sometimes without my knowledge in advance. I would have liked to be compensated for chairing those meetings when he wasn't here as a mayor, former mayor pro tem. Is that something that we can look into instead for his salary? Pay him a certain stipend, or whoever chairs that meeting a stipend for that particular meeting instead of giving them a salary? I mean, I'm just thinking outside the box because I know our mayor is currently, he is full-time and he does chair several regional boards. He is getting paid extra to be on those regional boards and even the council members who attend those meetings.
So one thing I want to make sure is that we bring this back to the topic on the agenda, right? So that's the first and foremost. The item before you is an ordinance potentially adjusting the salary for the position of mayor. If you want to talk about council member salary, you're welcome to add that to the agenda.
Okay, council
Okay,
member.
I was just throwing that idea out there. If that's a possibility, I know when we cut the salaries of our
Councilmember Barr, you'll need
elected.
to, Councilmember, you'll need to
I
move
still
on.
have the- I
If you'd
still
like to
have
make
the
another
mic.
statement, move on.
I still have the microphone,
I think you've
Mayor.
been counseled by our city
I have
attorney.
not yielded my time. I remember when we cut the salaries for 2 elected officials, our city also went down the wrong path. I just want to make sure that whatever we decide on right now is going to be upheld in court, the city attorney.
So I can never give you any guarantees, but what I can tell you is A, you have the legal authority to set the compensation of the mayor. B, you have to follow the criteria. I would very strongly encourage you for the third time this evening that if you're going to go down this path, that you make findings this evening as how the mayor's duties on a full-time basis compares with the full-time duties of other people in your city who are making similar amounts of money. I think that is going to be a key component. Is he required to report to work at 8 a.m.? Does he sit in his desk in his chair until 5:30 p.m. every single day? What does he do during those 8 hours a day? Is it being tracked? I think if you can make those findings, I think that a decision to adopt this ordinance could be upheld.
Correct, and that's why my comments, if this would be one of the many discussions that we have, because there's a lot to unpack for one night and decide on tonight regarding his salary, if that's going to be something that the city staff will be bringing back to us with those ideas. Or if this is going to be the end-all, be-all and decision, and we're deciding tonight, and that's it. Now I
Okay,
can
does that
give my
conclude your
time, Mayor.
comments?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Councilman Charette, sir?
Again, thank you. My final comment is, number one, I don't think, and I couldn't find it real quickly here in the charter, but it seems to me that I read somewhere in there that the mayor does preside over meetings, but there's no requirement that he be at the meetings. I mean, he doesn't have to be here. That's how many meetings we have, 12 times 2, so we have 26 meetings a year, 20. He doesn't have to be here at all. And he doesn't have to be at the office at 8 o'clock in the morning. And he doesn't have to clock out for lunch and clock in for coming back for lunch. And that's my rationale. This is a fiscally responsible thing to do based on the charter and the duties that are required of essentially, though it doesn't say it in the charter, it's essentially a part-time position. It's essentially a part-time position. And to conflate this and with other salaries of council members and now stipends for, if I'm going to be filling in for we're going down this is an item that we have a motion and a second to reduce this. My only question that I haven't had answered yet, and it can be dealt with later, I think, is the auto allowance. That doesn't have to be a part of this tonight. We can change that somewhere down the road at a later date, correct? So I'm not interested in necessarily, I think it needs to be changed, but I'm not necessarily interested in doing it. So I guess
Okay.
I'll call for the question.
Call for the vote.
Thank you very much. Hold on, Mr. Pierce. We'll get to you in just a moment, sir. There's been a call for the question, so that means to get back to the point of tonight's meeting. So the chair will rule in favor of a public comments. We have 2 public comment speakers, Mr. Pierce and Ms. Ortiz. Ms. Ortiz, go ahead. You're, no, I don't believe so. They have to be sworn in?
Yeah, this is a public hearing.
Please proceed, Ms. Ortiz. Go ahead.
All right. So, I fully support the lowering of the salary. And when this topic gets brought up, we talk about ageism, classism. So, as a mid-30s Latina with a PhD, middle class, who's running for mayor, a homeowner with a mortgage, I support lowering this salary. And I want to give you guys some comparisons. So to be a full-time lecturer, PhD, you make about $80,000 a year. Teaching classes, your set time and schedule. To be an analyst one in this city, you have to have a bachelor's degree. You have to have knowledge in public administration with at least 2 years of experience in that field. And your starting pay is $55,000 a year. And you actually have to show up to work because the municipal code says that regardless of whether the mayor comes, they get paid. What job do you guys have that you cannot go to or have to go to and still get paid? And Teddy, when we didn't receive that grant for Seacom Lake, you said, we need to make sure we have a grants manager. We need to have someone there that can write grants for us. You know what? That takes money. You guys talking about stipends, and Councilwoman Sandra Barra, I fully support the idea of you guys receiving stipends. But you know where you can get that cost savings from? Reducing almost $100,000 out of the mayor's pockets. And it's not John. It's not about John. It's about the office, because as we know, no one's going to be here forever. So it's not about what he has done or hasn't done. It's about where are we going with this position? Where is the equity? Where is the equality in it? Because you guys do far more work. You are at events. You are doing services for the city, managing the budget, hiring the city manager, keeping to task with all of your representatives. And you make $1,400 a month part-time. The mayor makes upwards of $100,000 a year by running an illegal cannabis consulting company. It's in his 700 forms. So there's no way saying that just because the mayor has a full-time position that they're not allowed to work an additional position. They just can't go and represent another city. They can't be gone and not available. But you also need to fix that portion in the municipal code that says you get paid whether you come or not. You guys have the power. You've met the requirements in the charter. As soon as the compensation and the charter reform committee met, that was all it took. Whether they tabled it, whether they rejected it or not, you guys have met the criteria. Stick to the mission. Then go after everything you're looking for. One, if you want to see salary increases, that's cool. Set that at that point. But you cannot have if, and, or that in order to make one decision. It's too complicated. We'll reduce the salary of the mayor. I'll support $50,000. I'd like to see $3,000 a month. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. And Ms. Ortiz, get your facts straight. I don't have a cannabis consulting firm.
Check your emails.
Mr. Pierce, you're welcome to address the City Council. Sir, welcome.
Good evening, council members. My name's Tom Pierce. I've been a San Bernardino resident since 1976. I've been an economics professor at Cal State San Bernardino since 1976, and I retired last summer. I also was a member of the Charter Committee for the charter approved by the voters in November 2016. And I was a member and the chair of the 2018 Elected Official Compensation Advisory Commission that made recommendations to the council regarding the mayor and council salaries. I've timed my comments. I think they're about 3 minutes and 20 seconds, so I hope you'll bear with me. Your packet tonight for tonight's meeting includes a January 19 memo from City Manager Field to the mayor and council entitled Ordinance Adjusting the Salary for the Position of Mayor. That's pages 85 to 88 of your packet. The memo also includes 7 attachments. Attachment number 3 lists, and I quote, mayor charter duties. And for San Bernardino, Charter Section 303, powers and duties of the mayor, is stated in its entirety on page 95 of your agenda. But Charter Section 305 is not mentioned at all there. And Charter Section 305, page 191 in your packet, states that compensation, quote, compensation for the mayor shall be commensurate with that of a full-time position. My point is this. While the charter is based on a council-manager form of government, it clearly stipulates in Section 305 that compensation for the mayor, quote, shall be commensurate with that for a full-time position, end quote. That is, performing the task expected of the mayor is a full-time job, and the charter says the mayor's compensation should reflect that. So the argument that's sometimes made that the mayor's salary should be cut because it's no longer a full-time position conflicts with the wording of Charter Section 305, which states that the mayor's pay, quote, shall be commensurate with that for a full-time position, end quote. As citizens, we expect anyone serving as mayor to put a full-time effort to help move the city forward. And as Charter Section 305 stipulates, compensation for the mayor must be commensurate with that full-time position.
Sir, you're done. The mayor doesn't get to choose who gets to do this. This is in his favor, and I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to offend you. No, you're out of line.
Mr. Reynoso, Mr. Pierce, go ahead and conclude your comments.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry, Mrs. Calvin, we'll let the public speak. Go
every
ahead, sir.
every
Ms.
constituent
Calvin?
that comes to the
Ms.
dais
Calvin?
is afforded 3
Ms.
minutes.
Calvin, you're out of order.
You are not allowed
Ms.
to
Calvin?
pick and choose who you're going
Ms.
to
Calvin?
decide will get longer time.
It's the chair's prerogative
You have 2
to-
minutes, Mr. Pierce. 2 minutes.
Ms. Calvin, you're out of order.
It's a Brown Act violation. This is a Brown Act violation.
Mr. Reynoso.
Are you understanding
please
what I'm telling you?
Stop interfering with the.
City Attorney, can you advise on the Brown Act violation by affording more time to one
Prerogatives of the
constituent
chair,
versus another?
Mr. Reynoso, in the view of the chair, he has about 15 seconds remaining. Mr. Pierce,
No, he
please
does not.
conclude in those seconds remaining, sir.
So I would like to confirm that the chair does control the meeting, as I've advised you in the past. If you have a decision, if you have an opinion different from the chair, you can make a motion you would need a second to cease further comment. But the chair, under the rules, does control the speech.
Mr. Pierce, you have 15 seconds remaining, sir. If you could please conclude.
Make a motion to end public comment
Sorry,
now.
Mr. Reynoso.
Second.
Mr. Reynoso? Mr. Reynoso? No, it's not it. You'll have to take a vote.
Okay, Councilmember Sanchez?
To end.
Yes. The motion to cease public comment. Councilmember Ibarra?
I'd like to hear the comment.
So no, yes?
Mayor
What is
Pro
it?
Tem?
It's my understanding in the past during public hearings that there weren't any time limits. When did we change the limits on public hearing?
That I don't know.
The only time we changed the,
Mr. Figueroa?
Every meeting I've been at, we've had
Figueroa,
meetings, but
please
I think it's
cast
when
your
we
vote,
had
either yes or no, if you
a
would,
lot of
please.
speakers.
What was the question, Mr. Figueroa?
In the past, when it came to public hearing, there were no time limits on public speaking. There's always been time limits as far as items not on the agenda or, just regular comments, but when it came to public hearings, there weren't any time limits on.
I think according to your agenda, the same time limits have applied to all comments that are made. They don't have unlimited time to speak.
Mr. Figueroa, would you like to
Your vote,
cast your
sir.
vote on this item? Vote no.
Councilmember Charette?
He has 15 seconds remaining.
I'm voting to give Mr. Pierce 15 more seconds.
So no?
Councilmember Reynoso?
Obviously, I'm voting yes to end public comment, but let this be a reflection on what this city looks like. Like, come on, man, we have to operate.
Cast your vote, sir. Let's move on.
I casted my vote.
Okay, so it's yes. Mrs.
Councilmember
Calvin?
Yes.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-3.
I'll veto that. Mr. Pierce, please conclude your comments.
My,
Mr. You voted as no.
I voted to allow him 15 more
Correct.
seconds, right?
Correct, we have that.
Mr. Pierce, please conclude. Thank you, sir.
My main concern is that if the mayor's salary is cut radically, the pool of candidates in future elections could be greatly reduced. Could, for example, a person with a family hoping to send their kids to college possibly consider running for mayor? If talented candidates decided not to run, there could be a long-term negative consequences for the city. Some retirees and wealthy people may not be deterred by a low mayoral salary, but many talented, energetic people would be.
Thank you, Dr. Pierce. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming tonight. Okay, the matter is back before the City Council. Ms. City Clerk, to verify, are there any public comments via telephone or Zoom?
We do not have any remote public.
Okay, very good. I now close the hearing on this item at approximately 9:34 p.m. And we have a motion by Reynoso and a second by Councilmember Kelvin. And if members would please cast their votes.
Can I get, for clarity, I need that motion repeated.
$50,000.
Does that include also my amendment to include council member salaries? No, then I'll be, because I agree with reducing the mayor's salary, but not.
Members, please cast your votes.
Motion passes 5-2. Council members Ibarra and Figueroa voted in opposition.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 8 through 20. This is our consent calendar. Is there a motion for approval? Move for approval by Charette. Is there a second?
Pool number 9.
I'm sorry. The chair will recognize members who are recognized with a hand raised. Is there a second on the motion by Charette? Go ahead, sir.
Second.
Second. Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar items 8 through 20. Members wishing to pull, please state so.
Number 9.
Any other pulls? Mr. Charette? Very good. Thank you. And the second. Members cast
Can
their
we
votes.
do a voice vote on this
Sure.
item?
Yes.
Sanchez, Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynoso.
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, the item pulled by Councilmember Reynoso is item number 9 of the construction contract award for traffic signal upgrades. Mr. Reynoso, sir, you're recognized.
How's it going, Mr. Keiston? Hey, so, so my understanding is that this is essentially 2 stoplights being put down like one block, right, on Mill Street, close to the Orange Show?
They are 2 signal lights that is, yes, need upgrade. And that is, yes, they are like next to each other. That's
Also,
correct.
those already exist and it's going to cost
They are existing and
$970,000?
we are upgrading them.
See, my concern mostly is that why isn't this money being allocated to like street lights that we're responsible for first? How did this become a priority?
This is a list that we have for signal lights that we have through the city that has been old and the equipment that used. It is the most signal light that is right now maintained by my staff. So that is why we identify with the CIP to be upgraded as we go. If you remember about a couple of months, 3 months ago, we awarded for 3 signal lights to be upgraded, and now is the continuation of this. This is for the 2, and then you're going to be having more coming up as we go. And this is paid usually by Measure I funds, or we can pay by, the traffic impact fund that is paid by the developers.
Do you know the current Measure I balance that we have for this year, for spending?
We receive 3.7 million
Okay.
on a yearly basis of Measure I.
So 970 just for these 2 lights? $970,000?
Unfortunately, the problem that we have is all these poles need to be replaced, and the price is in the poles, and it's very expensive now to get steel anywhere.
I mean, I'm not going to make a stink about it because it is what it is, but I think our priorities, obviously, I think you're hearing clearly. Mr. City Manager.
If I may also.
Come on, man. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you,
yes,
Mr. Reno. So the chair will recognize Councilmember Sanchez. Sir?
Yes, the traffic light at Mill and K Street. We have hundreds of kids who cross that street to go to their middle school, Richardson Prep High, and that traffic light is constantly out. And that is a 4-lane, no stops for more than a half a mile. So you get traffic going there 40, 50 miles an hour. And if that traffic light is out, one of those hundreds of kids who go from the south side of Mill Street, crossing the street to get to Richardson, could get hit by a car going 50 miles an hour. So for me, this is top priority. I'm very familiar with this intersection because this street light is constantly out. So you have little kids that are about 10 years old, 12 years old, who are crossing with traffic that's going 50 miles an hour, and there's no traffic signs. So for me, it's a priority, and so I move to approve this.
It's also election year, my friend.
Move for approval by Sanchez, second by Charette. Members waiting to speak. Councilmember Ibarra.
My one question, Mr. Kishta, what's the update on E Street lights? I mean, the amount, I'm just asking because these amounts are too high. 900,000 for traffic signals?
Miss Ibarra.
900,000?
Miss Ibarra, you can have an offline conversation with their city manager on that.
It's
Let's
been
move
years
this item.
asking for those street lights on my end.
I understand, Miss.
And it's
I
a whole
understand,
stretch of streets.
Miss Ibarra, I understand your passion for your district. Tonight's agenda item has specific requirements.
I'll make
So
a
if you'd like to
motion
refrain
not
from.
approve this project.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Members, cast their votes, please. Mrs. Calvin, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mrs. Calvin, go ahead.
Mr. Kishta?
Yes.
This amount that we're looking here, this $500,000 for one street light, is that the cost for all street lights?
No, this is a signal light. This is a traffic
The
signal light.
So
Yes.
that is the cost for?
That is the cost, and sometimes it goes for more, depending at what kind of equipment that we specify for these kind of intersections. Yeah, it's costing a lot of money.
So is this a brand new one, or it's just an upgrade? I just want to know, so when I see the numbers come back, I want to.
It's upgrade to the whole intersection. All are going to be new poles. Yeah, replacement of the whole signal light with equipment, cabinets, conduit, cameras, the whole thing.
And what did you say that was? You gave Councilmember Reynoso, what, 3.7?
We get 3.7 yearly from Measure I for projects that we do in the city.
Okay, so that's only going to give us about six streetlights then. For the
Yeah, but
city with
we
that
use Measure I
3.7.
for other projects other than signal lights. We do it for pavement, we do it for Cape Seal, we do it for a lot of things.
Let's be clear, there are other sources of funds that can be used for
Yes,
similar
yes.
projects anywhere in the city. I mean, Measure I is very flexible, and as long as it's transportation related. We have Measure S money. There's a lot of different sources of funds available to us, so it's not, I don't think we should confine ourselves to thinking just in terms of the funding source, so much as talking about projects, project locations, that sort of stuff.
Okay, and then just for sake of remembrance, how do we then decide which streetlights in the city then are we going to address? Because we know that we all have streetlights within the city that have this exact problems, and we all know that there are schools in all of our wards where we are very conscientious and wanting to make sure that all the children are safe, right? So how are we determining that?
So we have a list of the signal lights that we have through the city, and we prioritize the intersection based on the money and the time that we are spending into maintaining these signal lights. As Councilmember Sanchez said, that one of the signal lights goes all the
I
time.
can't hear. There's a lot of conversation up
Sorry.
here on the dais. I can't hear. If you all please.
Yeah, so for example, the signal light that is Councilmember Sanchez have mentioned, which is Mill and K, that goes all the time, and then staff have to go and maintain it. It costs us more money than just building a new one.
There's been a motion and a second.
It's essentially a data-driven decision based on maintenance requirements for the individual intersections.
Thank you, Mr. Field. Motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Ms. City Clerk, can you repeat what we're voting on right now?
It's item number 9. Members, if they would please cast their votes.
Motion passes 6-1 with Councilmember Ibarra voting in opposition.
Very good. Thank you. This meeting is now adjourned and have. Oh, I am so sorry.
No, it's not.
I apologize, council members. Ethics training for all city employees by Councilmember Alexander.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. Just would like to bring forth that our city employees do not receive ethics training, and ethics training is a part of how you deal with things in work. I'm a former retired government employee, and we had to take ethics training every year about how to deal with particular issues in the city. So that's it. I don't know if I can bring Director Anderson. I don't know if she would come up. I don't know if you will allow her to come up. If that's a good idea.
Mr. Alexander, this is an item to add to future calendar.
Okay. All right.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
There's a motion, and is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Members, cast your votes on this item.
I'd like to make a comment before I place my vote. We are, as leaders, and the executive staff, if you will, or all the politicians, the electeds, the major department heads, what have you, we are already required. Is this a suggestion that we have ethics training for the entire city staff? I don't support that. It's overkill. Right.
I'm sorry.
But not for the entire.
Can we reopen it, please? Thank you. Members, please cast your vote to add this item to a future agenda. There's been a motion and a second.
I'll move it to I'll vote to move it to the next agenda, but I probably won't support it then.
Can you cast your votes again, please? The first one didn't work. Okay, motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you and have a good evening.